Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is, well, to take the day's important information and really unpack it for you, helping you get right to the core of what's happening quickly and effectively. We're focusing specifically on current affairs from June 7th, 2025, part 1 today. And we've got quite a stack of sources covering everything from strategic minerals, environmental statistics, international bodies, major infrastructure projects, you name it. Think of this as your shortcut, really, to being well-informed on these key topics.
That's right. And especially for those of you preparing for competitive exams like the UPSC, you'll find these points particularly relevant. Some of these topics might even be things you've touched on before. So this is actually a great opportunity for revision and to add that crucial recent context.
Exactly. So let's dive into this batch of information and pull out the most important nuggets for you. Okay, let's unpack this first piece of news. India holding discussions, to establish long-term stockpiles of rare earth magnets. This sounds, well, strategically very important.
It certainly is. The source material really highlights India's aim here, reducing dependence on China.
And the numbers mentioned are pretty stark. China controls, what was it, 90% of magnet processing globally?
That's the figure, yes, 90%.
Yeah.
And over 80% of the actual refining capacity for the rare earth elements themselves. These rare earth magnets, they're permanent magnets made from alloys of these rare earth elements. They're known for just exceptional strength and energy density in really compact sizes.
Right. And where do we actually see these being used? I imagine they're pretty critical for a lot of modern tech.
Oh, absolutely. The source lists a huge range. Medical applications like MRI machines, X-rays, PET imaging. Then you've got aviation, national defense.
Electronics, too. Right. Smartphones.
Definitely. Electronic devices, smartphones, consumer goods, jewelry, even hard drives. And crucially, electric vehicles. Their strong magnetic fields are just indispensable in so many areas.
Tell us a bit more about the elements themselves, rare earth elements, REEs. We hear they're not actually that rare. Is that right?
Correct, according to the source material. Geologically, they're relatively abundant. The challenge is they're difficult and, importantly, costly to mine, and especially to refine. There are 17 of them, the 15 lanthanides plus scandium and yttrium. They're all metals, often called rare earth metals, and they tend to be found together in mineral deposits. They're also often sold as oxide compounds, which is why you hear the term rare earth oxides.
And the magnets. The sources mentioned two main types.
Yes, primarily neodymium magnets, that's NaFeB, made of neodymium boron and iron and samarium cobalt, or SEMCO, which uses samarium and cobalt. Both are extremely strong, magnetically speaking. But they tend to be a bit brittle and they can corrode, so manufacturers often nickel plate them for protection.
Okay. So India's move here, seeking stockpiles, offering fiscal incentives for domestic production, it's a direct response to this concentration in the global supply chain, mostly in China, and maybe recent export restrictions, too.
Exactly. It's all about securing supply chains for critical components, reducing vulnerability.
Right. Let's switch tracks to domestic initiatives. The Khadi and Village Industries Commission, KVIC, recently disbursed 300 crore in margin money subsidy. This was under the PMEGP. What is this program all about?
The Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program, or PMEGP, it's essentially a credit-linked subsidy scheme. It was launched back in August 2008, and it's a central sector scheme administered by the Ministry of MSME.
And its core aim is?
Simply put, generating employment. It helps people set up their own micro-enterprises. Importantly, it focuses specifically on the non-farm sector.
Non-farm. Okay. And it covers both rural and urban areas.
Yes.
Who actually implements it? How does it work on the ground?
Well, KVIC is the national nodal agency. But at the state level, it involves the state KVIC directorates, state KVIs, the district industry centers, and of course the banks providing the loans. It's quite collaborative.
What kind of benefits does it offer someone wanting to start a small business?
It's a bank finance subsidy program. The key benefit is the margin money subsidy, which can range from 15% up to 35% on the bank loan component. Projects could be up to 50 lakh in manufacturing and 20 lakh in the service sector. The rest of the cost is covered by a regular bank loan.
And I believe there are specific provisions for certain categories of people, higher subsidies.
Yes, that's right. For special categories like SC, ST, women, persons with disabilities, minorities, ex-servicemen, and people from the northeastern region, the subsidy is higher. It's 35% in rural areas and 25% in urban areas for these groups.
Makes sense. And who can actually apply? Is it open to anyone?
Any individual over 18 is eligible.
Yeah.
And there's no income ceiling, which is interesting. However, there's one condition. For projects costing over 10 lakh in manufacturing or over 5 lakh in business service, the applicant needs to have passed at least the 8th standard. Also eligible are self-help groups, even those below the poverty line, provided they haven't used other schemes, registered societies, production co-ops, and charitable trusts.
Any major exclusions?
The main one is that existing units that have already received a government subsidy under any other scheme aren't eligible for PMEGP.
Got it. And KVIC itself, just to be clear, is a statutory body set up way back in 1956 under an act of parliament. It's the main body under MSME for Khadi and village industries.
Precisely. So this disbursement is part of its ongoing role in promoting these sectors.
Okay, shifting gears now. Let's talk environment. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation released the 8th issue of Invistats India 2025. What exactly is this report?
In Vistats India, it's essentially an integrated statistical framework. It's designed to organize environmental data from various government sources into a coherent picture. It's published by the National Statistics Office, the NSO, and it follows the UN's Framework for the Development of Environment Statistics, the FDES 2013 standard.
So it's compiling all this data, giving us a snapshot of the country's environmental health. What are some of the key highlights, maybe some trends from this 2025 report?
What's really interesting is the long-term data they present. Take temperature, for instance. The annual mean temperature increased from 25.05 degrees Celsius back in 2001 to 25.74 degrees in 2024. And both minimum and maximum average temperatures also rose during that period, so a clear warming trend.
What about rainfall? Always a critical factor in India.
The data there shows, well, significant year-to-year variability, which isn't surprising given how much it's influenced by monsoon patterns. But interestingly, the report suggests no clear long-term upward or downward trend in total annual rainfall between 2001 and 2024. Lots of fluctuation, but no consistent direction over those 2 decades plus.
Okay. Any insights on energy or perhaps natural resources?
Yes, definitely. The report tracks energy generation. Thermal power generation, for example, increased significantly from around 792,000 GWh in 2013-14 to over 1,326,000 GWh in 2023-24. But importantly, electricity generation from renewable sources saw a much larger proportional increase over that same period. It went from about 65,500 GWh to over 225,000 GWh, so renewables growing much faster, relatively speaking.
That's a significant shift.
It is, and it also tracked things like inland fish production, which also increased substantially from about 61 lakh tons to 139 lakh tons.
This Invistats report seems like a really crucial resource then.
Absolutely. It's key for policymakers, researchers, anyone involved in environmental issues. By highlighting these trends and indicators, it helps identify challenges and, importantly, supports developing evidence-based policies for environmental sustainability. Vital data.
Okay, now for something maybe a bit more specific, possibly unexpected from the sources, the Prime Minister recently planted a Sindor sapling on World Environment Day. Tell us about this particular plant.
Yes, the Sindor plant. Scientifically, it's Bixa oriana. It's a small tropical shrub. It's famous for its bright red seeds, which you find inside these globular, kind of spiky red-brown pods. It's often called annatto in English.
Annatto, right. Where is it originally from and where does it grow now?
It's native to Brazil, originally. But it grows in many other parts of South and Central America, and really tropical countries all over the world, including India and parts of Africa. It needs a certain climate, frost-free, warm, humid, lots of direct sunlight. It's fairly adaptable to soil, though it seems to prefer neutral to slightly alkaline conditions.
What makes it so notable? Why plant this particular sapling?
Well, its seeds produce a very widely used natural dye. The source mentions it's used not just in food thing coloring for cheese, butter, ice cream, meats, but also in textiles, paint, and cosmetics. Traditionally, that red-orange color was used as a cosmetic by various tribal communities as well, so it has both practical and, cultural significance.
Interesting. Okay, let's look at an initiative focused on traditional Indian systems, the Ayush Nivesh Sarthi portal. This was recently launched. What's its purpose?
Yes, the Ayush Nivesh Sarthi portal. This is a dedicated digital platform. The main aim is to attract investment into India's traditional wellness systems, Ayurveda, yoga, naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, the AYUS systems. The goal is really to transform this sector into a more significant economic driver.
And who developed it?
It's a collaboration between the Ministry of Ayush and Invest India. And it's designed specifically to be investor-centric, making it easy for investors to engage.
What kind of information does it provide? What support does it offer?
It integrates a lot of things investors need. Policy frameworks, details on incentive structures, lists of investment-ready projects, and even real-time facilitation support. The idea is to empower investors, both domestic and global, with data, clear policy guidance, and easy access to this growing market.
And the context for this launch is the significant growth we've already seen in the Ayush sector.
Precisely. The source notes that the sector grew at about 17% annually between 2014 and 2020. Plus, there's growing global demand for natural and preventive healthcare. So this portal really underscores India's ambition to become a leading investment destination in traditional medicine, boost foreign direct investment, and showcase its leadership here.
Right, important initiative. Now let's jump to something from fundamental science, astatine. There was news about researchers detecting and measuring the half-life of a specific isotope, 188-at. First off, what is astatine?
Astatine is element number 85. It's quite a fascinating one. It's rare, highly radioactive, and it belongs to the halogen group on the periodic table like fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. But unlike them, astatine has no stable isotopes. Every single form of it is radioactive. It's extremely radioactive.
So what are some of its features, given its rarity and radioactivity?
Well, we know very little for sure because of those factors. It's likely a dark-colored solid at room temperature. Its radioactivity is so intense it actually glows blue because it ionizes the air around it. It does occur naturally, but only as a decay product of heavier elements, and it has a very short half-life. It doesn't stick around long.
And the specific isotope mentioned in the news, 188-8, why the focus on that one?
Yeah, the source highlighted recent research managing to measure its half-life. Astatine has 41 known isotopes in total, all radioactive. When this 188 astatine emits a proton, it transforms into 187 polonium. And that isotope has an incredibly short half-life itself, just 1.4 milliseconds before it decays further into 103 lead, and eventually down to a stable nucleus. Studying these details is key for nuclear physics.
What about its chemical properties? Is it like the other halogens?
It likely forms compounds similar to iodine, yes. Its chemical properties seem to most closely resemble iodines. However, it also exhibits more metallic characteristics than the lighter halogens.
And does it have any uses, despite being so unstable?
Mostly, it's used for research purposes. It can be used as a radioactive tracer in some studies. And notably, there's interest in using one specific isotope, astatine-211, for targeted alpha therapy in treating thyroid cancer. Kind of like how radioactive iodine is used, but potentially more potent.
Very interesting stuff. From fundamental science to conservation now, the Tamil Nadu government has declared a greater flamingo sanctuary at Dhanushkodi. That sounds like great news for migratory birds.
It really is. This sanctuary is in the Ramanathapuram district of Tamil Nadu, and it's actually nestled within the ecologically sensitive Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve, so a protected area within a larger protected area.
What makes this particular spot so special for flamingos?
It's a critical stopover point. It lies along the Central Asian Flyway, which is a major route for thousands of migratory wetland birds. The area itself offers diverse ecosystems. You've got mangroves, sand dunes, mudflats, marshes. And this supports around 128 bird species, including, yes, both greater and lesser flamingos.
And the mangroves you mentioned, they play a specific role.
Absolutely. Mangrove species there, like Avicennia and Rhizophora, they're crucial for stabilizing the coastline. Plus, they provide vital habitats for marine life fish, crustaceans, mollusks, which the birds feed on, and even nesting sites for sea turtles. They're key ecosystems.
Let's talk about the greater flamingo itself, the star attraction.
Right. The large wading bird, instantly recognizable with its pink feathers and that unique bent beak for filter feeding. Its range is quite wide across Africa, Western Asia, and Southern Europe. They typically hang out in shallow, saline, and alkaline wetlands. Think salt lakes, coastal lagoons, mudflats, especially during breeding season.
And their conservation status, are they under threat?
According to the sources, their IUCN status is currently least concern, which is good. And in India, they're listed under Schedule 2 of the Wildlife Protection Act, giving them strong legal protection. This new sanctuary adds another layer of security for them.
Okay, good news on the conservation front. Let's shift now to international relations and trade. News about discussions potentially starting this year on a free trade agreement, an FTA, between India and the Eurasian Economic Union countries. What is the EAEU?
The EAEU, yes. It's an international economic union located in northern Eurasia. It was formally established by a treaty back in May 2014, essentially succeeding the previous Eurasian Economic Community.
And which countries are members?
There are 5 member states currently: Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia.
What's its main purpose? What does it aim to do?
The core idea of the EAEU is to provide for the free movement of goods, services, capital, and labor among its members, like a common market. It also aims to pursue coordinated, harmonized, and even single policies in specific economic sectors. The bigger objectives are boosting competitiveness, increasing cooperation, promoting stable development, and ultimately raising living standards in the member countries.
How is it governed? What's the structure?
Its supreme authority is the Supreme Eurasian Economic Council, which is basically the heads of state of the member countries. Then there's the Eurasian Economic Commission, which is based in Moscow. That's the permanent supranational regulatory body responsible for the day-to-day functioning and development of the Union. It's worth noting, though, as the source points out, there are some differences compared to, say, the European Union's institutions. The EEC's power is a bit more limited than the European Commission's. Members can appeal judgments to other bodies, and the Commission can't actually bring a member state to court for not complying with rules. Disputes often get resolved bilaterally between the countries involved.
Ah, interesting distinction.
And also, unlike the EU, the EAEU doesn't share a common currency. Each member retains its own.
Okay, so India exploring an FTA with this bloc is definitely significant for trade strategy.
Absolutely, expanding ties in that region.
And sticking with international bodies, another significant development, India's recent election to a major UN body.
That's right. India was elected to the UN Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, for the 2026 to 2028 term.
ECOSOC. What exactly is its role within the UN system?
It's actually one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations, established right back with the UN Charter in 1945. Its job is huge. It's responsible for the direction and coordination of all the UN's economic, social, humanitarian, and cultural activities. It's really the UN's largest and probably most complex subsidiary body.
How is its membership structured? Who gets to be on the council?
It currently has 54 member countries. That number has grown over the years. It started with just 18. Representation is based on geographic distribution, with a set number of seats allocated for Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and the Western Europe and others group.
And how are members chosen? Is it permanent?
No, members are elected by the General Assembly for 3-year terms. And the terms are staggered, so every year, 18 new members are elected according to that geographic distribution. There are no permanent members, technically, although a country can be re-elected immediately. The source does note that 4 of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council have been continuously re-elected, mainly because they provide significant funding for ECOSOC's budget and its activities.
Right. How does ECOSOC make decisions? And what kind of work does it actually do?
Decisions are made by a simple majority vote. Its work involves conducting studies, formulating resolutions and recommendations that often go to the General Assembly, and coordinating the activities of numerous UN organizations and specialized agencies. A lot of its detailed work happens through various functional commissions that focus on specific topics like human rights, population, social development, statistics, and so on. It also oversees the regional economic commissions. India's presence there is certainly significant.
Definitely. Okay, finally, let's turn to a massive infrastructure project in Africa. The World Bank has approved significant financing for the Inga 3 hydropower project in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is apparently happening despite some opposition.
Yes, Inga 3. This is actually just one part of a much larger vision. The proposed Grand Inga hydropower project on the Congo River in the DRC. It's being described as potentially the world's largest proposed hydropower scheme, if it ever gets fully built.
World's largest proposed. How big are we talking? What kind of power output?
The full project, if completed, could potentially produce up to 40,000 megawatts of electricity. That's an enormous amount. The source notes this is more than twice the power generated by the Three Gorges Dam in China, currently the most powerful dam, and is more than a third of all the electricity currently produced in the whole of Africa. Just staggering scale.
That scale is incredible. What makes that particular site on the Congo River so suitable?
Well, the site is about 50 kilometers upstream from the river's mouth into the Atlantic. The Congo River has an exceptionally high average flow rate, second only to the Amazon globally. Crucially, at Enga Falls, there's a natural drop of about 97 meters due to rapids, plus a significant bend in the river. This combination creates ideal conditions for large-scale hydropower generation.
What's the estimated cost for something like this? Must be astronomical.
The estimated total cost for the Grand Inga project is around $80 billion. Huge sum. Funding sources mentioned include the World Bank, African Development Bank, European Investment Bank, the French Development Agency, and the Development Bank of South Africa, among others potentially.
And this Inga 3 project, the one that just got the financing approved, is just the first step.
Well, it's the first major new phase. The Grand Inga project is planned in 7 phases overall. Inga 3 itself is being developed in 2 stages. It's located right at Inga Falls, which is actually the world's largest waterfall by volume of water. There are already 2 older, smaller dams there, Inga 1 and Inga 2, built back in the 70s and 80s. This new Inga 3 phase is projected to cost around $14 billion and generate 4,800 million when it's completed. Still massive, but just a fraction of the Grand Inga vision. And as you mentioned, the sources do note opposition. Concerns typically revolve around environmental impacts, social displacement, the huge financial risks, and governance issues in the DRC. It's a complex and controversial project.
Wow, okay. We've covered a really wide range today, from the strategic importance of rare earth magnets and supply chains to domestic initiatives like PMEGP supporting microenterprises. Crucial environmental data from Investats, a unique plant like Sindor, developments in traditional medicine with the Ayush portal, a rare radioactive element astatine. Conservation efforts for flamingos, India's engagement with international economic bodies like EAEU and social bodies like ECOSOC, right up to this massive and debated energy project in Africa, Grand Inga.
It really does highlight the interconnectedness of global issues, doesn't it? And the diverse areas that make up the daily current affairs landscape. Understanding these individual pieces is absolutely key to seeing that bigger picture.
So what does this all mean for you as you continue your own deep dive into the world's events? Maybe it raises the question, how do these seemingly separate pieces, things like mineral supply chains, environmental data collection, international cooperation bodies, how do they ultimately connect and shape national policy, global stability, and maybe even local conservation efforts? Keep exploring those connections. And if you found this deep dive helpful for your preparation, for your revision, please do make sure to like this session and subscribe for more daily insights straight from the sources.